Homeland Security and NewsMax contributor Chad Wolf. We're so glad to see you, Chad, again. And also with us is Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland of Terrell County, Texas, who is also a retired Border Patrol agent. It is so great to see both of you guys on such an important topic. Chad, let's start with you because Trump visited Eagle Pass, which we were just talking about. What a contrast it was. It almost looks like Alcatraz, you know, with all the barbed wire and just all the security that's there because it's the epicenter of the border crisis. He saw it up close. And then on the flip side, we see President Biden going to Brownsville, where it was like, there was like a little boat in the background, no migrants around. It was just a pop-in like the last time. What did you make of what a stark contrast, Chad, that both presidents experienced?
Well, as you said, President Trump went to where the crisis was because he's trying to be honest with the American people and laying out solutions for that crisis. While you have President Biden in Brownsville, as you indicated, very low illegal apprehension rates. And it's because the state of Texas has taken enforcement action in RGV and others. And I thought it was interesting. Secretary Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, was asked on his way down to Brownsville with President on why the apprehension numbers were so low on where they were going. And his response was because Mexico has stepped up their enforcement. His answer was not what DHS has done or what the Biden administration has done. It's what a foreign country has done to help secure our own border as well as theirs. So I think that gives you a glimmer and an insight to their thinking. And it's not what the U.S. could be doing, but it's basically shifting blame to everyone else.
Yeah, and speaking of shifting blame, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre totally deflected the border crisis entirely and placed all the blame right at the feet of Republicans. Both of you have to watch this.
This is a serious matter. That's why the president's going to the border. The president was at the border a year ago in El Paso, visiting the border back in January 2023. He put a comprehensive immigration policy on day one. This really, the folks who are getting in the way here are Republicans. They are getting in the way, and they are doing it because of what Donald Trump is telling them to do for his own political gain.
You know, Sheriff, when you hear this, I mean, is she out of her mind to say this? And do you think anybody's going to buy this hogwash?
You know, I haven't seen one bit of truth come out of her mouth about the border. And unfortunately, there probably are some people that do believe her. And that's why people like former Acting Secretary Wolf and myself come on the show to get the truth out. Look, in my county here in Terrell County, we're still dealing with those who cross our border illegally, not asylum seekers. The last 4 days, we've had 4 high-speed pursuits in my county. You know, until voters get out and make a good, informed vote, we're going to continue having this along our border.
You know, for sure. And you know it all too well. You were a border agent, Sheriff, for what, like 26 years. How disconcerted and how just overwhelmed are they feeling right now?
You know, and not only did I spend 26 years with the Border Patrol, but I grew up in the border. This is my home community. You know, we've seen the border issues progress through the years, but what I'll tell you also is that, you know, the past 4 administrations all contributed to border security. Yes, President Bush, President Trump, more than President Clinton and President Obama. But what's happening right now is complete lawlessness. There's no rule of law on our border. And our Americans, they shouldn't feel afraid to live on the border and live on the border with what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in the middle of all of this, you guys, Chad, I couldn't believe it because, you know, President Trump goes down there. He talks, of course, about everything that he has seen and what the agents, like many of the colleagues there from the sheriff, were talking about. And yet President Biden actually started talking about climate change. I mean, it seemed so out of touch, and started blaming people who were denying climate change. It seems so inappropriate. Watch this.
The idea there's no such thing as climate change. I love that, man. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change. Well, my administration is going to keep building on the progress we've made fighting climate crisis.
isn't that incredible, Chad? You know, here he is down there. There are so many serious issues. There are so many crimes that have been happening with illegal migrants, these horrific crimes like the Georgia nursing student. There was also a case in Virginia. The list goes on. And he's talking about climate change and playing politics. Chad, what was your reaction?
Well, look, you know, South Texas there has been in the middle of this crisis for some time. They finally get President Biden to visit, and he starts talking about climate change. So those Border Patrol agents in the background are likely shaking their heads saying, why don't you address the crisis that we have been facing for over 3 years now? We're going into our 4th year where we have mandatory overtime. There are things that are weighing on us day in and day out. We take this job home to us, home to our families. Give us some solutions, lay this out. And of course, he doesn't talk about that. He talks about blaming Republicans. He talks about climate change. And I think probably the most disappointing thing is he did not mention the tragic death of Lincoln Riley and how he was going to take steps to make sure that that never happens again. Never even mentioned it. So I think he did a disservice to the Border Patrol. He did a disservice to border security and to all those communities in South Texas, and particularly to the family of Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I agree. It needed to be said. Everybody in the country is talking about this horrific case, and to just ignore it is, I agree with you. I think it's shameful, and I think it's absolutely horrible. Both of you, thank you very much. Chad Wolf, we appreciate you being here, Mr. Secretary, and also Sheriff Cleveland. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all you do to try to keep us safe.